Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is. Time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And for those of you who don't like these kind of videos, you saw the title of the video when you clicked on it. But for those of you who do enjoy these videos, please remember to click a like down below to offset those dislikes. But apparently a big piece of news that's come out this week, and I don't even think it's that big a news because in the grand scheme of things, these are people who don't even talk about fitness, who are suing each other, who one of them is, I guess, Jeremy Buendia. I've covered him before. I can barely remember what he does, some sort of physique competitor. And Kenny's cock out. They're supposedly going to be engaged in a lawsuit, but it doesn't even seem to be real. So let me put on my +5 hat of speechcraft and let's talk about this. Now, yes, I know it's ironic that I'm reporting news on a guy who basically probably doesn't even seem to really care about training, only does trendy stuff, new stuff himself, who basically reports only on fitness news, doesn't really upload any real training, doesn't seem to know anything about training. Kenny's cock out, that I'm reporting fitness news about someone who basically makes his living discussing fitness news and gossip entirely. It's not lost on me. But hey, you know, we're all going to cash in on these things because people care. People enjoy the drama. They want to watch. But that being said, he is allegedly being sued by Jeremy Buendia. Now, the funny part is that this got into TMZ and everything else because Jeremy made the announcement that he's suing him for $1 million. Kenny is claiming, to my knowledge, that he hasn't even been served any papers. So if he hasn't been served papers, it's not really a real suit. It's just a threat of suit. And let's talk about this because I actually do have experience with being sued, right? Let's be realistic here. People will say, Jason, you shouldn't talk about things you don't know about. Really? I've been sued for defamation. I have been sued for defamation. It's not exactly a secret. So, that being said, here's what I'm going to say with some of this. This is nonsense. First of all, people need to understand, don't assume that where you live, the laws are the same. All right, so you might say, well, this is how it works where I live in Texas or California or Florida. Okay, defamation laws vary even inside the United States. You guys got to remember, the United States is 50 different states. Most of your defamation falls under state laws. In other words, the exact way these trials go in California is not the same as they go in Texas. Like Texas is an anti-slap state. This is like where I live, you do not want to sue somebody for defamation. It's kind of nice that I live here. The fact that I am outspoken in public gives me a nice advantage when I live in Texas. Because I actually, living here, because I do have a defamation attorney, and people want to argue that if they were to go drudge up my ex and ask her, yeah, she would actually confirm that that's true too. She has been in his office. Who actually wants me to push things to where I can almost be sued because he's like, yeah, we can make you $1 million. One of these people has deep enough pockets to actually sue you, we're going to make a fortune off of them. Because Texas, if you lose a defamation suit, they fine the person who filed the suit, and it's a big fine. Like, you have to win. Once you file paperwork, you have to win. You have to. Or they're going to fine the hell out of you. Even if you can't afford to take it to trial anymore, that doesn't matter. You lost, therefore the person you sued is going to get a lot of money out of you. So you got to be careful with that in a place like this. This is a good place to live if you're worried about defamation. You don't, however, want to try to sue somebody here for defamation unless you're a millionaire. So here's what this comes down to. Defamation laws vary. And it's a pay-to-play game. Where I happen to have been, where I got sued, has its own unique set of laws to where it is a pay-to-play. In other words, if you're not a reasonably wealthy person and someone sues you for defamation, like in the United Kingdom, you're going to lose. If they have enough money to sue you, you will lose. You know why? Because you have to hire a lawyer. If you can't afford the lawyer to take it to trial and they sue you there, you don't get to go to court. It's not a case of, oh, you just don't show up. No, you have to have a lawyer actually write up a defense for you. right? You don't get to just show up. They actually give you the stuff, say you have to file this defense. Well, if you don't know how to file everything and write it all up and file it in the courts, you're not going to court. It's just going to be a default judgment against you. So in a place like that, it's a pay to play. But by that same token, it's pretty hard to enforce the collections. So you take one like where I live. And I'm giving this as an example, and then we'll go into this and the problems with it. You take like where I lived at the time, because I was in the United Kingdom when I went through one. The person admittedly spent well over 6 figures. All right, they spent over 6 figures for that win. All right, do you understand that? They spent over 6 figures. I didn't spend a penny. One time when I went to the court, I had to take a taxi and the court had to reimburse me for my taxi fee. So I ended up being reimbursed for my only expense. I got some free consultations from some lawyers who gave me advice, but the cost for me to go to trial to actually defend against that would have started at around $50,000 US. For me to be able to actually go have a defense and go to court was like $50,000. I didn't have that sort of money laying around. I'll be honest with you guys now. I don't have $50,000 sitting in a savings account right now. Right? If I were to need to write a check for 50 grand right now, I don't have it. My check would bounce. Okay? I'm not saying I don't have money, but I don't have 50 grand sitting in a savings account at the moment. So you go to a situation like that, that person spent an exorbitant amount of money. They admitted it was well into 6 figures. They got nothing back. They got a piece of paper that said you won. All right? Now, and people will actually look at that and say, oh, you lost this. And it's like, I didn't lose anything. I had a piece of paper that says you lost, and I didn't pay anything. The other person paid 6 figures for a piece of paper that says you won. Okay? Because of the situation there, I knew they weren't going to be able to collect any money. Now, in a different situation, they would have been able to. So you come over and you take this stuff over here where people start talking about suing and suing. I've been through the defamation suit. And what I can tell you based upon what the other side had said and what I had said, it is an extremely stressful event. You do not want to sue somebody for defamation. And you don't want to be sued for defamation. Do you know why? Because it's stressful, it's time-consuming, and it's expensive. And people are like, yeah, but you're going to make money out of it. Not, probably not. The lawyers make money. The courts make money. I mean, realistically speaking, when you try to sue somebody, and let's say that they only have, their only thing that you could collect on them is, say, $10,000. Let's say you sue a person who has defamed you and they're not a major media corporation that has millions of dollars. They don't have millions of dollars in holdings. You're going to sue somebody who's not a millionaire for defamation. If you do that, you are a moron. Okay, let me state that again, including the person who sued me. If you sue somebody who is not a millionaire for defamation, depending upon where you live, you are a moron. Or you're a really, really rich person who just likes to throw money away. All right? It's a rich person's game on both ends. Because if you sue somebody who can't afford to pay you, this is a civil court. It's not like they're not going to be allowed to make somebody homeless in most places because they said something mean. All right, they're going to have debts they're going to owe potentially, depending upon how it's applied. Yeah, they're going to have a debt on their credit. But there's a certain threshold of where even debts can't be collected after so many years. All right, and eventually they stop affecting your credit score. So what you're basically going to do is if you sue somebody for defamation who's not a millionaire, you're going to hurt their credit score is what you're basically going to do. Okay, you're going to hurt their credit score. And you're going to have a collection on their record for, I don't know, $500,000, $1 million that goes away in 7 years in the United States. Okay, you're going to ruin their credit. What's it going to cost you? $100,000, $200,000 to do it? You guys see where I'm going with this? You sue people because you want to hurt their credit score, basically, unless they're a millionaire, in which case you might make some money out of it. But here's what it comes down to. You really only break even because in most places, and again, this varies. This is completely different depending upon where you go. You have to prove the financial loss. In other words, your goal is to hopefully break even. Like, and Jeremy was going to have to prove, if he claims it's going to be $1 million in damages, the courts are going to demand proof of $1 million of income loss. They're going to have, he's basically going to have to prove that either Kenny or a group of people involved with Kenny, so he might sue Kenny and 12 other people all as one lump sum. He's going to have to prove, to beyond at least some reasonable doubt, that he lost $1 million worth of income over the course of X months or years or future projections. He's going to actually have to prove all those future projections to a point to where a jury or a judge and people deliberating can look at it and say, yeah, that appears to be about $1,023,000 in losses over the next decade projected based upon these mean statements this person said, right? Does it hurt their reputation that much? They're going to lose that sort of money. You're going to have to prove that. And if the jury looks at it and says, no, we think you didn't lose $1 million. We projected his mean statements are going to cost you about $7,000. Right? They're going to cost you about $7,000 worth of income over the next few years. That's what we think is realistic based upon the evidence you presented to us. And they're going to award you, $7,000 in damages. Okay? How much money are you going to spend trying to collect that? $100,000, $200,000, months of your life. You're going to spend hours and hours and hours with lawyers and courts and everything else unless they settle. And if they settle out of court and they don't have the money, you're still not collecting it. So let's jump over and assume he tries to sue Kenny's cock out. And let's just be realistic here. Let's say Kenny spends all of his money on a lawyer and Kenny goes down to just having $57 in his bank account after he gets done paying his legal fees and court fees because he pays his own $100,000. And I'll assume Kenny makes $200,000 a year off his YouTube, right? So let's say he spends all of his money and he's down to $57 in his account. And he spends everything on legal fees. And then Jeremy is awarded a win because it is defamation. And Jeremy spends $100,000 and is awarded the $7,000 in money back. And all Kenny has that can be collected is $57, and he pays him $57. So Jeremy spends $100,000 and gets $57 as a return on his investment, and a little piece of paper that says you won. Do you guys see how stupid this is for non-millionaires to be suing non-millionaires for defamation? Right? And they're both going to go through enormous amounts of stress. Hundreds of hours of their life wasted so they can both spend a bunch of money and not really they're both going to go into debt as a result of it. They're both going to lose money. So the reality is this is nonsense, and here's what really happened. Jeremy is popping off because he's a goofy bodybuilder, and bodybuilders are generally speaking crazy, narcissistic sociopaths for the most part, the majority. Let's just call it what it is. There are exceptions, but that's the majority. And they're usually stupid meatheads who don't know anything, who wants to show off on social media and say, oh, I'm going to sue this guy for $1 million because I've lost $1 million in business due to him saying I'm a mean, bad person. And I'm not. I'm going to get my money because it's an ego thing for him. He's popping off on social media. Unless he's going to ante up $100,000, he's not suing anybody. And getting papers served to you still isn't suing someone yet, right? A cease and desist letter is not suing someone. I'll tell you right now, unless you have real good reason to think the person has deep pockets, when someone sends you a cease and desist letter, it makes good toilet paper. Unless you think they got $100,000 to throw down right now, that's how serious they are, that cease and desist letter is basically a piece of toilet paper. It is what it is. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.